Hi everyone, in today's video we need to have a look at your final design part of your A-level coursework. So once you have done your design development, so that's where you take 4 of your first concepts and development on the 4th time, so you've got basically 16 different bits of designs that you're going to go with. Now you need to come up with like your final solution that you're going to move forward with. Now that can be one that you've already created one of your design developments, or it can be one that you've then taken and tweaked again slightly. So there's a few things that you've got to include. One is technical drawing, and I'm going to go into the different kinds of technical drawing in a minute. A high quality 3D render of your scene. So this is why specifically we need to do it in CAD within Fusion 360, because Fusion will help you with your technical drawing, and it will let you do a good quality 3D render. You need to have your client's opinion, because remember the whole point is you're designing it for your client. It needs to be linked back to your specification and your brief. Remember the whole point at the end of your research where you set out those targets of what you had to do and why. You need to talk about the materials you're going to use and the construction methods. So we researched that at the start about what materials and things we've got in college, what's available, how much they cost. So you need to be saying specifically what you're going to use and why. What you can't do is just say, I will use something appropriate, or I'm going to figure it out later. You need to be deciding now. You need to have your exact measurements, which links back to your technical drawings. And you also need to make sure you're linking back to your research, which kind of goes in hand with the materials and construction methods and your client's opinion type of thing. So much like with all the other pages, I can't tell you how to lay it out, but this sort of gives you an idea. Final design proposal is probably going to go over 2 pages, and then all your other technical drawings are going to be on their own individual pages. So in terms of like technical drawings, there's a few different things you're going to need. Okay, so if you look at like an orthographic drawing, the idea being that it should be 2D from all different angles, but this one isn't actually orthographic at the minute. It's showing a few different things. So it's got a sectional view, so that's where you can see like this cross hatching. All of this, by the way, can be done inside of Fusion. So you can see the internal parts. Obviously, if you've not got any internal parts, so if you're doing like architecture, you don't necessarily need to have that. But if you're doing like furniture and there's mechanisms in there, you need to have the sectional pieces to it. You do need to have a labeled parts list. Again, Fusion will create that for you once you've got all your components set up. The reason why this isn't an orthographic drawing is because there's no measurements on there. Okay, so this is why you can have multiple different drawings. So you might have a parts list drawing as one of your drawings, you might have a sectional view as another one of your drawings, and then you might have an orthographic as another one. So you're going to end up with 3-4 different pieces of technical drawing. So the whole idea of working technical drawing is the kind of things that need to be included. So we talked about orthographic projection, key measurements, your sectional views, parts lists, your bill of materials, so talking about what materials you're going to use and why, and then exploded drawing. Okay, so if you've not gone over exploded drawing before, that's where you've got all the parts sort of exploded out so you can see how everything fits together. Okay, it is going to go over multiple sheets, as I've said. It does also need to be to the correct British standards. Okay, so remember this is A-level leading into degree or apprenticeship, so you're expected to meet those specific British standards. Now we follow British standards 8888, which we have covered in a theory very recently. So again, thankfully I'm not a salesperson at all, but Fusion will produce it because we are in the UK, and when you go to do your technical drawings, it will automatically start to lay it out with the correct title block and dimensions and notations and that sort of thing. Okay, so just bear that in mind, and that's why we do that. What you will need to make sure you do is your drawing needs to be to scale. So if you're making it 1-to-1, fine. So you need to model the thing to scale in Fusion, and then you can say what scale you're going to manufacture it down into. Okay. So I'll talk about exploded drawings. So this is to sort of show you the other kinds of drawings you might have. So exploded drawing, like you would see like flat pack IKEA furniture if anyone's ever built it. So basically showing how all the parts will go together. Now to do that in Fusion would be quite easy. You just have your model and you just grab each component and you just sort of drag it back a little bit. Sectional views we've gone over. It's how you have the cross hatchings, always to show if there's like parts that slide into each other, like they interact in some way or intersect. Now this is what we would count as an orthographic drawing. So it's got the different views, so front, back and side, and then it's got all the dimensions on there. Again, Fusion has a dimension tool for you, so you just click on the lines and drag them down and it will do it for you. Okay. Now when we talk about British standards 8888 and the technical drawing layout it needs to be, that refers to the border, which we've got here. So this one is done to British standards. Okay. Then you've got your title block at the bottom of it. Now you can change it. So it automatically in Fusion, it will come up with your name and the title of whatever the drawing is or the model is. You then can fill out all the other information in terms of like what materials can be made from, the scaling of it. Not all of this will be relevant to you, so you can just like leave parts that aren't relevant out. So just to show you examples, so you've seen Wills before who did furniture, so I did a chair, so he talked about his final design, how he sort of changed from his development to his final design. And then here are his sets of design, his technical drawings. So we've got his orthographic view, all the different sides with measurements, and like a rendered version there. He's got his title block, so you don't need to have all these other information if it's not relevant. So he just says what it is. That's his orthographic drawing, and he's the one that created it. And he says it's 1 of 4, so he's got 4 technical drawings. Then he's got his parts list. So it's the same drawing. And this does look like quite a lot. It takes a bit of clicking to do it, but once you've got the model done, to be able to produce it, you're not doing a whole lot of extra work. So you've got all his parts, then literally he's got his parts list. It's labelled it all with the names and the description of what it is, and then the materials that go with it as well. He's then done sectional view for any parts that intersect, so like things like his arms and the mechanism for how the chair moves up and down. He's got sectional cross-hatching to show how it goes together. And then the last part is he's got all his different components separate. So I'm afraid architects, you're going to have quite a few, so all the different parts of your architectural model will have to be separated, and then you can dimension them as well. And then what is good to have but not necessary, but I would strongly recommend, is show a timeline of sort of how you went from your first concept, developed it all the way through to your final design as well, because it shows that journey of started here, designed, modelled, CAD, client feedback, research, and then how did you get to what is now your final solution. And then final render, so that's sort of the standard we're after with your final render. And we've talked about this before when I was teaching you how to use CAD, is the whole point of having a scene gives you a model context. You can't just do a final model, and that's rendered very nicely, but the whole point is the scene gives it more context as well, so that's what is expected from you. And then his write-up, so comparison to his specification and his brief, goes over a couple of pages, and then links back to research and client's feedback. Okay, so that is everything that needs to be on your final design. Hopefully that has made sense. If you've got any questions, please let me know.